Welcome to Sum Up Movie.
Today I will show you a psychological thriller film called The Killing Room. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie is set after the effects of 9/11. 4 individuals sign up for a psychological research study, only to discover that they are now subjects of a brutal, modern version of the Project MKUltra. One by one, the subjects are brought into a large white room and left in an unsettling state. Movie starts with Ms. Emily. She is the youngest military psychologist in her NSO unit. Then we see Dr. Phillips. He is researcher in charge at MKUltra. Dr. Phillips tells her how they usually don't recruit people above 25, since they cannot even look at the room straight. Emily is there for job interview, and she is told to observe things, and after 4 phases, they will able to tell if she is hired or not, if she lasts by then. Emily looks at the room and we see a team cleaning it for the next group. In the room we see the first volunteer of the group, Carrie. She enters the room and then see very strange question given to her. Then we see the second volunteer entering the room, Tony. Upon entering the room he notices that the tables and chairs are locked to the floor. And we see the second question, as they continue to think about the answers. Third volunteer, Crawford, is introduced. He seems to have previous experiences of this exams, and he instantly starts filling up the paper. The fourth volunteer, Paul Brody, he seems to be observing and silent. He goes to the chair in the end, and he also notices that it is locked to the table. Crawford and others start talking about the questions, that they will save themselves if put in any situation showed in questions. In the next scene we see Emily telling the doctor that MKUltra project was discontinued 60 years ago and she is shocked to see it working. Tony calls her mom and tells her he will be back by the night. Then we see Dr. Phillips entering the room and introducing himself to them. Doctor tells them that they will be paid $250, and they might have to stay till 8 hours. Then he asks them to take out all their belongings, from mobile phone to bazookas, and put it in the bag, assuring them they will get it back before leaving. Then he goes to Emily and tells her each member will be eliminated in 4 phases. And it starts now. Shooting her brains to the floor. Everyone is shocked and scared, hiding near the table. Once Doctor leaves, Tony gets up and tells them it was a nice prank for you two, but now he wants to go home and they can end it here. Crawford pulls Tony and pushes him towards the dead body of Carrie, showing that it's not a prank and they're in serious trouble. Tony is extremely raged along with other volunteers, and then they start trying to find ways to escape the room. In control room we see Emily being upset about the whole incident. Dr. Phillip tells her it's for a bigger cause. Later in room we see small window opening and someone throwing something out of it. It turns out to be a gun. Paul points it towards Tony. Crawford calms him down and asks him to check the magazine of gun. And they see it empty with only 1 bullet in the chamber. With only 1 bullet in gun, they talk about the elimination phase. And they see a paper thrown out of the window. The question says, what number do American citizens choose frequently from 1 to 33? As they read the question, we see the doctor asking Emily to start the timer for 2 hours. As the timer continues, we see the question stats. Person guessing number farthest from the answer will be the one to get eliminated. The question strangely has grammatical mistake, saying best luck instead of best of luck, to make the volunteers think the person behind the whole project is not American. Tony continues to find a way to escape the room, and we hear a noise in the background. Both of them lean towards the vent and try to listen to it. Tony stupidly says it's Muslim language, and Crawford corrects him that Muslim is not a language and it might be Arabic. Emily in the control rooms knows the reason behind playing Arabic conversation in the room. Then we see Paul finding out some cravings on the wall. As all of them tries to read what's written on the wall, we see Tony going back to the dead body of Carrie and dipping his hands in her blood. He comes back and then he rubs his hands on the wall, making the texts readable. Shockingly they see, "Pray for us" written on the wall. Tony continues to decipher the texts. Then we see Doctor telling Emily that their team wrote the text to fool the volunteers. The timer changes suddenly and now they have 1 hour left. Paul rages out and tries to shoot the glass, knowing it is bulletproof glass and it will be waste of bullet. They push him down. Back in the control room, Doctor tells Emily to continue the next step. We see Crawford passing gun to Tony saying he does not want to keep the gun with him. The small window opens suddenly. They go towards it but they can't see anyone. So they hide under the table to make a plan. They plan to shoot the person in window. but Tony stupidly goes and puts his hands in the window, getting it locked onto it. They all help him and finally his hand is free, only to see it severely injured. Crawford wraps his shirt on Tony's hand. Paul notices the timer being changed again. Emily sees all this from the control room. She tells Doctor that she wants to use the washroom. At this point we can see that Emily is highly disturbed from what she saw and she breaks down. She fixes herself and comes back to control room. Later, we see Tony sitting in the chair with shirt around his neck showing his rocket to people in control room. Crawford makes a plan and asks both the volunteers to say the same answer. This way it will be a tie and none of them will lose. Few minutes before the timer runs out, Tony says that he is going to miss his mom and wishes his daughter will take care of his mom. Paul says he will miss his family. Crawford says he never got to meet his daughter and whoever survives the exam, he wants them to tell his daughter he loves her, and makes a prayer. Then we see timer getting to 0. The voice tells them to submit the answer. Tony says the number 7 is agreed, but Paul betrays them and says 17 instead. Crawford is left with no choice and he says the answer 7 is agreed. Then we hear the announcement, saying the volunteer for elimination is chosen. Within seconds the room is filled with sleeping gas. They find it hard to breathe, and it knocks them down. Then we see some doctors entering the room. They put Tony on the stretcher. Back in the control room, we see Doctor giving a jacket to Emily, telling her to come with him to the testing room. As they walk towards the room, the doctor gives her face mask and tells her this is just the first phase and tells her to just observe. Upon entering the room, Emily sees Carrie, the first volunteer. At this point in her conscience she feels that she has just witnessed death of innocent people. She walks around the room observing everything, while the doctor checks volunteers. Then the doctor grabs the gun from the briefcase and shoots Tony in front of Emily. She tries to stay calm. Then they leave the room and lock the door with an access card. The doctor tells her that she should not worry about them since many people go missing in America every single day. Continuing, they play loud music in the room. Due to the too loud noise, Crawford wakes up in pain from the sleeping gas. He looks and finds Tony lying in a bloodbath. He blames it on Paul, since Paul decided to betray them in the last moment. Paul begs him to shoot, accusing that Crawford is imposter. We see another question being thrown out of the window. The question stats: where does America stand in IQ level of average citizen? Crawford finds a note saying hint in the footer. The note says the answer is not in top 10. He cuts the note out and then reads the rule saying they all will die if they choose same answer, and sees best luck in the end. Upon being tired from everything, Crawford puts his head on the table. Back in the office, Dr. Philip tells team to play a recording. They start playing a prayer of Muslims, making volunteers believe that they're trapped by a terrorist organization. Crawford rages out and tries to bring the light down. He fails by taking the light down. He then tries to make his way through the hole. Paul helps him instantly. While Paul is helping him, the team of doctors enter the room. They start recording it while Crawford escapes. Then they take down Paul with a taser. As Crawford crawls in the vent, Doctor tells Emily that it is human nature to sacrifice themselves in order to protect the other being after enough contact. Crawford reaches the end of vent and we see doctors making notes at another vent. This means they have different groups having similar escape patterns. And then they knock him down and bring him back to the room unconscious. Paul is awake now, sitting in the corner scared from everything. In the next scene we see Emily walking towards the experimental room and opening the door. She then helps both of the volunteers in escaping the facility. However, only to find this was imagination in her mind. Somehow Doctor knows what she's been thinking and tells her to stop there. Then he tells her that if she will stop observing, then her interview will be over and she will be of no use to them. Back in the room, Paul walks towards Crawford and we see that he's alive. Then Crawford thanks him for helping him. He is having remorse and tell him that he tore the hint from the paper thinking Paul is imposter. Continuing, he makes a plan and he covers himself with blood of Tony, making himself slippery so the guards can't get a hold of him. Continuing, he says that he will stop the guards and Paul can escape, since he wants this raccoons to be exposed to world. However, Paul decides to kill himself instead to save Crawford, but we see gunshots and Crawford is shot by the guards. They put the dead body of Crawford on stretcher and we see doctors taking away Paul. He is in extreme pain from the death of Crawford. Back in the office, Doctor reveals to Emily that when a cell is attacked by outer force, human body reacts the same way, by sacrificing itself for a superior good. And that the whole project, MKUltra, is based on creating American suicide bombers to fight other countries and organizations. Then the doctor goes to meet Paul, but he is in extreme pain and scared as well. So he pushes them away and he makes his run to find an exit. We see Paul making his way to the control room. He sees Emily. She is standing at the door. However, surprisingly, Emily closes the door on his face. Paul screams and begs for help to her. But Emily decided to walk away. And we see her looking at the room while the team is cleaning everything. The doctor tells her that she has done the right thing and her interview is over, and that she is hired. Back in the hallway we see Paul still running to find an exit. He enters a room with more volunteers in it, and the announcement says, Phase 2 has started.